I want to bring in a guest who knows a thing or two about the issues from many different angles. Michael Wilds is an immigration attorney, a professor of immigration law as well, and a former federal prosecutor. Also joined in New York here live by prosecutor and CNN legal analyst Paul Callan. So, Michael, I want to start with you. First and foremost, we can talk about all the politicking we want when it comes to this executive action, etc. That's going to be what Paul talks about. What you need to tell me is, what does this mean for all those people out there who are thinking, finally, I can stay, or, gee, why did they get to stay?
There are anywhere between 11 and 20 million people here without authority. We have a broken immigration system for 30 years since President Reagan gave an amnesty. President Bush tried to pass immigration reform and his Republican Congress wouldn't do it. We have the greatest risk takers and entrepreneurs. Remember, we're sitting not a few miles from the Statue of Liberty in the city built by Irish and Italian and Jews. We have a huge heritage of immigration. I came from my office a few blocks away on Madison and 53rd, and I'm a second-generation immigration lawyer from a family, a gentleman who works in the Transit Authority who's disabled, and his wife, who has children here, is without status. The new normal is that this country will be regarded as we did in the 1800s, in the early 1900s, and now in the new millennia, for that extraordinary legacy of immigrants, entrepreneurs, risk takers.
Give us your tired, you're sick, and you're
And the bottom line...
About those people, look, we don't have the actual writing yet of what the president plans to do. We've got some inklings and some leaks, etc., of what he plans to do. But effectively, will this mean, if you have a baby, and that baby was born here, and that baby is an American citizen, you, mom, and you, dad, you've got your pathway?
Well, historically, the law would only allow a child to sponsor a parent at the age of 21. If the president passes this law, it will give a status, or it will defer taking status away from people that are here unlawfully. Look, Ashley, we don't have enough handcuffs, airplanes, detention centers, or beds, or the inclination to remove these individuals.
For people to fill the jobs that they leave.
So are we going to separate families when we have to roll up our sleeves in a poor economy and their hands on deck? Don't we want people to have the graciousness, the gratitude, and the love of their families with them? They're not taking jobs from America. Understand this. These are the greatest risk takers of the immigrant community. Bill Gates, top of the fold of the Wall Street Journal for the last 15 years. I need them. They're filling patents.
And there are plenty of
business people and farm pickers.
There are plenty of people who disagree and say that this is a blight. We're paying for education. We're paying for medicine. We're paying for law enforcement, etc. For people who never have paid a dime to get here and are coming here in far too great numbers. That's the other side of that argument. But there is this other needling issue, and that is, who is this president to rule by fiat? Who is this president to just sign his pen like the great king and tell us how everything is going to be? And by the way, it's legal to do that.
Well, it is under certain circumstances, and it's a fascinating constitutional issue. It's called executive orders. And the president, under the Constitution, has an obligation to faithfully execute the laws of the United States. And presidents traditionally have looked at that phrase and used it to take existing laws and say, this has to be filled out a little bit, and they issue an executive order saying that it's part of an existing law and it has to be done for the government to work properly. Lincoln did it with the Emancipation Proclamation, believe it or not. Truman...
Look on your screen.
Yeah.
Just so if anybody's freaking out over King Barack, just take a peek at King Ronald and King Bill. And George Bush, they've all done it.
And historically,
but here's what I don't
more
understand.
Republican presidents have probably done it than Democrats. Yeah.
Paul, you first. Why does everybody flip their lids when it's discussed, when something all of a sudden gets to executive action status?
Well, I think, just listening to the president, one of my reactions to his statement was, he says, I gave you a year to vote, and you didn't. So now I'm going to do it by executive order. Well, there seems to be a contradiction in that, because if they had a vote in the first place, why can he do it by executive order?
10 seconds.
Yep.
The president is not legislating. He's not making law. He's not usurping the trust that was just placed in a new Congress and doing something independently. He has the authority. Actually, it came out of a case that my father handled, John Lennon's case, when he got him a green card. Under that case,
but still people get very angry.
We learned that the government defer taking action. I'd rather put the resource to getting drugsters and bad guys out of this country and leave immigrants that will work hard in the business sector or the farm sectors with their families.
Michael Wilds and Paul Callan, thank you for that. And we need a whole hour just on the constitutionality of executive actions, because it isn't easy, and that's why there is such, there's such wiggle room on both sides of this argument. Thank you. I want to take you to